Sunlight slid between the tall glass buildings like it was trying to soften the city before it woke completely. Morning traffic glinted across windscreens in slow-moving rivers of steel. A bus sighed as its brakes hissed at the corner. Somewhere down the block, an espresso machine hissed to life in a small café. Steam drifting into the bright air as coins clattered on a counter. At the edge of that brightness stood Eli Carter. He adjusted the collar of his faded brown coat, squinting as sunlight hit his eyes. The coat had once been thick. Now it was threadbare at the elbows. His shoes, 2 sizes too big, tapped softly against the courthouse steps as he shifted his weight from foot to foot. Footsteps echoed on concrete. Lawyers, clerks, people with polished shoes and pressed suits. Their voices blended into the city's steady hum. Eli watched them pass. Most didn't see him, a few did, and looked through him anyway. Across the steps, a woman in her 60s slowed. She held a paper cup of coffee, steam curling into her face. "You all right, love?" she asked gently. Eli nodded. "Just waiting." She followed his gaze to the courthouse doors. "Got business in there?" "Supposed to," he said. Her eyes softened. "Good luck." Then she was gone. The courthouse doors opened again. A group of reporters exited, their voices sharp in the bright air. High-profile trial today. Embezzlement. Corporate fraud. Company collapsed overnight. Eli swallowed hard. Inside his coat pocket, his fingers brushed the edge of a cracked phone screen. He didn't pull it out. He didn't need to. The bailiff stepped onto the steps and lifted his voice. "All witnesses for the Walker case, proceed inside." Eli moved. Every step up the stairs felt louder than it should have. His worn soles slapped against polished stone. The daylight behind him framed his silhouette as he crossed the threshold. Inside, the hallway echoed. The brightness continued through tall windows lining the corridor. Dust motes floated lazily in the sunbeams like they had nowhere else to be. People stared now. Not openly. Not for long. But long enough that a young man in a navy suit leaned toward his colleague and murmured something. They both glanced at Eli, then quickly looked away. At the end of the hall, double doors stood open. Inside, the room glowed with soft daylight. Sunlight washed across the wooden benches, caught on the brass fixtures, and settled against the raised bench where Judge Helen Brookshire sat, composed, silver-haired. Immaculate in her black robe, the jury sat in quiet anticipation. At the defense table sat Richard Walker, former CEO of Walker Dynamics. Impeccable suit, perfect posture, hands folded calmly. At the prosecution table, assistants shuffled papers. Eli approached the witness seating area. A clerk looked him over. "Name?" "Eli Carter." The clerk checked a list. "Occupation?" Eli hesitated. "None, currently." The clerk paused, then marked something. The defense lawyer, sharp-suited, late 40s, turned slowly. His eyes flicked over Eli from head to toe. Something unreadable crossed his face. Judge Brookshire adjusted her glasses and glanced down. "Mr. Carter, you are listed as a witness." "Yes, Your Honor." Her gaze lifted. It lingered. Not cruel, not kind, simply appraising. "You understand the seriousness of testifying before this court?" "Yes, ma'am." The defense attorney stood. "Your Honor, may we approach?" She nodded. They whispered at the bench. The prosecutor frowned. The judge listened. Then she looked back at Eli. Her tone was controlled, but distant. "Mr. Carter, do you have any verifiable employment records, affiliations, or documentation relevant to this case?" "I delivered building maintenance at Walker Dynamics. Overnight shifts. Contract work through a temp agency. A few years back." The defense attorney scoffed softly. "And do you have documentation of that?" "Not with me." Judge Brookshire folded her hands. Silence stretched. The hum of the city filtered faintly through thick glass. "It is the opinion of this court," she said carefully, "that without proper documentation, your testimony holds minimal legal weight. At this time, you are dismissed." A ripple moved through the gallery. Eli blinked. "Your Honor, please." "I saw." The gavel struck once. "Bailiff." 2 uniformed officers stepped forward gently. Professionally. Eli's shoulders dropped. Not in anger. I in something worse, understanding. As he turned, the courtroom felt painfully quiet. Quiet after a harsh statement. His footsteps echoed again through the sunlit hall. Outside, the brightness felt crueler now. Across the street, Pigeons hopped through sunlit puddles from a light, overnight drizzle. Rainwater shimmered on pavement. Life continued. Eli stood at the base of the courthouse steps, his figure small against the wide sky. For a long moment, he did nothing. Then he reached into his coat pocket and pulled out his cracked phone. The afternoon sun had climbed higher by the time. Eli reached the café. It sat on the corner opposite the courthouse, small, narrow, and always warm with daylight. The windows were wide, uncurtained. Inside, sunlight spilled over wooden tables and drifting steam. Behind the counter, Maya Torres wiped down the espresso machine. Her hair was tied up. A streak of flour dusted her cheek. She looked up as the door chimed. Eli hesitated in the doorway. Maya smiled. "Hey, you're back." "Yeah, guess so." She poured him a coffee without asking. Set a pastry beside it. "On the house." He blinked. "You don't have to, I know." Sunlight caught on the rim of his cup. He wrapped his hands around the warmth. Across the cafe TV, muted news footage played. Live coverage. Walker case. Maya followed his gaze. "That trial you were talking about?" Eli nodded. Maya turned up the volume slightly. Inside the courtroom, Walker now stood at the defense stand. Confident. Calm. Untouched, Eli's fingers tightened in the light. "He's lying," Eli said quietly. Maya looked at him. "You said you saw something." "I did. Months before everything collapsed. Late night. Empty floors. Wrong room. Wrong computer left on. And the court just sent you away." He nodded. The cafe door chimed again. 2 men in suits entered. Their voices filled the room as they queued. "Stock market chatter. Corporate gossip. They'll never touch him," one said. He covered his tracks too clean. Maya watched Eli's reflection in the window. His jaw had set. "Not enraged. In resolve." "Eli," she said softly. "What exactly did you see?" Eli hesitated. Then he unlocked his phone. The screen lit up with a spiderweb of cracks. Months ago. He hadn't been brave, but he had been curious. He turned the phone toward her. Video. Walker. Alone. In the office after midnight. Transferring files between disguised accounts. His voice clear in the quiet room. "I bury it tonight. By morning, the trail disappears." Maya inhaled slowly. That's everything." Eli's eyes stayed on the screen. "I tried to give it to the police back then. They said it wasn't enough. I tried to give it to the company. They canceled my contract." Silence fell between them. Outside, a bus sighed past. Maya made a decision before she realized it. She grabbed her phone. "Stay here." "Maya." She was already dialing. An hour later. Daylight bathed the courthouse steps again. A black SUV pulled up sharply. Prosecutors moved fast. Inside the courtroom, tension rose like heat through glass. The door burst open. The prosecutor stood. "Your Honor, new evidence has emerged. Digital forensic verification in progress. We request immediate screen access." The room shifted. Walker's face twitched. Judge Brookshire hesitated, then nodded. The big screen descended from the wall. Sunlight reflected across it as the video began to play. Walker froze. Maya stood at the back. So did Eli. The courtroom held its breath as Walker's own voice filled the room. "I bury it tonight." The room exploded into movement. Walker's lawyer leapt up. "Objection. Too late." Truth traveled faster than wealth ever could. Later that afternoon, sunlight settled gently over the city. The courthouse steps were quieter now. Eli sat on the edge of a low stone wall across the street, hands resting on his knees. For the first time in months, his shoulders were not hunched. Judge Brookshire approached alone in a robe. Just a woman. She stopped in front of him. "Mr. Carter." He stood instinctively. She raised a hand. "You were right to come back." Eli's voice was steady. "Thank you for hearing it this time." She nodded once. "We failed you earlier. The court failed you." She reached into her briefcase and handed him a card. "You ever consider formal investigative work?" Eli hesitated, then smiled. Across the street, Maya watched from the cafe doorway, sunlight turning her hair gold. Eli crossed toward her. She handed him a fresh coffee. "On the house," she said again. He laughed softly. Inside the cafe, the TV replayed the moment, the evidence on the big screen. People watched differently now. With humility, the afternoon light stretched longer. Eli stepped back into the city, not as someone unseen, but as someone finally recognized. Moral justice doesn't always arrive in power. but it always arrives in truth.